Hello guys, welcome to a new series I'm doing called Quick Tips, which is basically where I explain tidbits of information that are either difficult to understand or not often completely understood. This series is going to be comprised of mainly short videos and will be assuming that you know all of the previous necessary knowledge for the topic and thusly centered around the topic itself and not all the other funky business going on around it. So for this video, for example, we're doing slicing in Python, which is itself a fairly easy concept, but it's got some interesting little caveats and some special powers, I guess you could say, that not everybody knows about. And so for this video, I'm expecting that you know lists and the basics of indexing and how Python indexing works. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So the first thing to know about slicing is that it is only applicable by default on lists. I don't know if some of the pre-implemented collections and the collections module implemented as well, but for just the regular use of Python, it is only applicable on lists. It's basically an advanced form of indexing that allows you to select groups of elements of the list as opposed to a single element, which is a pretty powerful tool, as oftentimes you'll find yourself wanting a subsection of a list, and it's much more efficient than doing index by index or a comprehension. Its syntax is fairly simple, so you'll see I've created a little list here with the numbers 0 through 9, so basically corresponding with the indexes. And you'll see that its syntax, it begins by you put the name of the list, followed by a pair of brackets. Inside the brackets, you're going to first put where you want it to start. So let's say I wanted to get the second element onward. So that's what this colon means, is this colon basically separates the delimiters, or rather the boundaries of the list slice. And so you'll see that we're going to start at 1, which is this thing, and then I want to go up until 7. So it's important to note that list slicing is inclusive-exclusive, so it's going to start at 1 and then go all the way up until 7. So it should give us a list of the numbers 1 through 6, and you'll see it does that. The next thing with lists is that you can move these indices around anywhere. You can put it, if I wanted to go from this section, you could do that. You could really do anything. And you can also use negative indices, but it's important that you make sure that the effective value of the first index is less than the effective value of the second index. And the reason I say effective value is that if you say put -1, so you'll see, let me put -1 as our first index here, this is not going to go from here and then include the 9. It's not going to do that. You'll see it'll give us an empty list, because what it's saying is, okay, you want me to start at 9, right, and then go till 6. How does that make sense? I can't create that. And you'll find often with slices, whenever you have a slice that just doesn't make sense, it's just going to give you an empty slice, even if the index is out of bounds. The only case in which slices will really throw errors is if you've got an invalid type in there. For the most part, slices just yield an empty slice if something doesn't work. And you can see that you can basically use all of Python's indexing rules here. So if I wanted to go from 7 until 9, you can see that'll give me 7 and 8, because it's going to ignore this 9, because again, it's that inclusive-exclusive rule. And so, yeah, this will work exactly how you think it would based on your indexing rules. It is cool. One cool thing about slicing is that you can actually omit an index that you don't really need to specify. So, for example, if you wanted to go from the very beginning of the list to, say, the 5th, to say we'll say number 4 here, so that would give us 5. You can just do this. So you can just omit that first value here. And if we run that, you're going to see it gives me everything up until 5 here. And so it's whenever you omit it, it's just going to default to start at the beginning. And the same goes for slicing to the end. So if you omit this last value here, it's going to assume you want everything through here. So it's going to give you that as the slice. So that's basically all there is to regular slicing. And again, the negative rules all apply here as well. The big thing is the real big thing with slicing that most people don't know is that you can do what's called step slicing, where you basically slice on an interval. So you'll see what I mean by that is if I wanted to select, let's go back to that first slice, elements 1 through 7, but I only wanted every other element. We'll add another colon here and put a 2, and you'll see if I do that, it's going to select every other element because it's on an interval of 2. So it's going to go here, jump 1 here, jump 1 here, and you'll see that that is exactly what happens here. And you can do any interval you want, even if it's greater than the size of the slice you're doing, and you can also omit these first two, so if you just want to select on an interval, just leave them both blank. If you want to, say, just get 0, you can put an interval like 11 that's obviously greater than the size of the list, and you'll see it still selects 0 because it's going to go 0, jump 11, oh, I'm outside of bounds, stop. So no matter what the interval is, it doesn't really matter, it's still going to work. And the same, but if you wanted to like get every 2 items, the third interval, you'll see we get 0, 3, 6, 9, and you can see that it works exactly how you would think it would. It's kind of like the step option in range, if you've ever used that in the range function. It's the same principle. And just as it is the same principle, you can also reverse a list by this method. So if I wanted to reverse it, I could put a step of -1 in here, and you'll see when I do that, it completely flips the list backwards. And what's cool is you can actually specify the boundaries on it exactly how you would with a normal slice. However, it is important that you know something. So let's say I wanted to get 7 through 1, exactly this slice but reversed. The order of the slice position swaps. So I would have to put the 7 first and then the 1. But you'll see that if I do that, which would be most people's first instinct, you're going to see what happens here is that I do not get what I want at all. I get the 7 included and the 1 chopped off. So why is this happening? Well, even though you swap the positions of the indices, what still happens here is it's still the inclusive-exclusive rule. So you're saying, I want to include 7 and exclude 1. So we're going to, if we go back up here, we're going to start at 7 and go up until 1. Sorry, I didn't get the 7 in that. Right there, which is not what you want. So if you actually want to accomplish the same thing as the first slice, you're going to have to do this. And you'll see that looks kind of weird because you're not used to putting, you don't normally put the 0 in a slice, but you do have to put it here because, again, what you're saying is I want everything starting at 6 up until 0, right? So it's not going to be implicit. And if you tried to do something like this, like, oh, well, since it's 0, I can just fill it in. Nope, because, again, that's going to include that first element there. So you can kind of see that the rules here kind of get a little funky when you start messing around with inverting the list. And you can also combine these. So if you wanted to say, I'm going to take 6 through 0 and I want every other element in reverse, you'll see that you can do that. So you can combine all of our basically slicing techniques together to get a full slice. And again, you can omit any value in the slice as long as you have these colons here. And one tiny cool thing about slicing is that it will create a copy of the list. So if you wanted to, say, get a free copy as opposed to a reference, you can just do that and it will give you a whole new fresh copy of the list. And that's really it for slicing. The main reason I wanted to make this video is to talk about the special stepping and all the weirdness that is accompanied with that. And so, yeah, that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.